It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the movies of March 30th, 2001. We got 4 movies to look at today, so let's just jump right on into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is Robert Rodriguez's Spy Kids. So the story of this is that you have two parents, Gregorio and Ingrid, played by Antonio Banderas and Carla Gugino, who are the 2 greatest secret agents the world has ever known. Masters of disguise, mavens of invention, able to stop wars before they even start. And working for separate countries, they are sent to eliminate their most dangerous enemy, and that is each other. But in an exotic corner of the world where they finally come face to face, they fall in love instead and embark on the most dangerous mission they've ever had to face, and that is raising a family. 9 years later, after they've retired, they've exchanged their adventures of espionage for parenthood, and then they're called back into action when their former colleagues, the world's most formidable spies, start disappearing one by one. The Cortezes are forced to take on this techno wizard played by Alan Cumming and his evil egg-headed sidekick, literally named Minion. But when the unthinkable happens and they too disappear, unfortunately there are only 2 people that can save them, and that's their kids, played by Alexa Vega and Daryl Sabara. You know, Spy Kids is a very interesting movie, to say the least. On the one hand, it looks really silly, it looks really childish, but that's kind of the charm of this movie. I mean, take for example a movie like C Spot Run, which we talked about beforehand. That's a movie that clearly had no idea what the hell they were trying to accomplish, and they thought they had something special, and they just had something really, really stupid, and only knew that they were going to make their money back because they had the Harry Potter trailer attached to it. This movie, on the other hand, takes a concept that should be really dumb and visuals that should not look good and actually makes something pretty wholesome and charming for once, and especially for a director like Robert Rodriguez, whose movies up to this point have included stuff like, From Dusk Till Dawn, Desperado, The Faculty, not really a whole lot of family movies in general. For him to go to this and do like a fun family movie like this, that's a pretty big accomplishment. It shows his range as a filmmaker as a whole. And it really shows when you have a really good cast that's fully committed to this. Alexa Vega and Daryl Sabara work very well as the 2 kids. Antonio Banderas and Carla Gugino are a lot of fun as the parents. Alan Cumming has a good role as the villain of the film. You got Terry Hatcher, you got Cheech Marin. This is actually the first time you see Machete, Danny Trejo, in this movie, even though he'd go on to have his more R-rated material coming on later on down the road. Robert Patrick, Tony Shalhoub, Mike Judge, George Clooney. I mean, Richard Linklater's in this as well. He got a lot of people in his movies, and he makes a fun movie that really should not be as fun as it is, and yet somehow it surprisingly works, and it still holds up after all these years, and in fact, it's even gotten better as time has gone on. That's the interesting thing about this movie, and even with the second movie in particular, like, these 2 movies really have gotten better over time, and that's something that's really, really impressive. Spy Kids 3D, not so much, but you know what? It's better than what they did after that with All the Time in the World, and then the reimagining they just did the past year with Armageddon. So I guess you got to give them that. But as far as this movie goes, it's a ton of fun. I really say it's worth a watch. It's definitely worth it, and it's really impressive to see what a difference this movie is over 20 years later. It really has gotten better over time the more I think about it. So with that said, let's move on to the next movie, which is Someone Like You. Another one of those pretty bland, mediocre comedies that Ashley Judd was in around this time period. She stars alongside Greg Kinnear and Hugh Jackman as a heartbroken woman looking for a reason why she was dumped. If you have to look for a reason why you were dumped, then maybe you should probably do some deep thinking, or maybe you should start picking men that actually would want to be with you, and not the kind of men that don't want to be with you. I mean, I don't know, just my perspective from that front. But what do I know? But as far as the movie goes, it's pretty bland, and it is pretty bland and mediocre. It's a movie that wastes a lot of really good talent on here. Ashley Judd has proven to be a good actress over time, but there was a time where she was just picking movies for the sake of just picking movies and hoping that she was going to have her name be recognized. But other than that, in this, she's just kind of doing a stock role that any woman probably could have been in. Like, you probably put Sandra Bullock in this movie, it probably would have worked the same way. Nothing would have really been gained from it. It is interesting to see Hugh Jackman outside of Wolverine in this, which could be interesting, but I mean, he is. The more I think about it, though, he is probably one of the best things about this movie in particular. Marissa Tomei is also in here, so is Ellen Barkin. But other than that, no, nobody's really doing anything significant or anything that makes this movie something that you have to see. It's just kind of like, hey, it's a date night movie. You see it, you never see it again afterwards, and then you go on with the rest of your life. But other than that, though, I mean, it's just bleh. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too impressive, just mediocre at best. Speaking of mediocrity, let's move on to our next movie, which is Tomcats. Behold another one of those comedies that tries to sell the prepubescent teens of the time a movie where it's going to be nothing but sexy women, and it's going to be like the next great American Pie movie, and it's just not. Like, and once again, I was suckered into that. I was 12 years old when this came out. I knew my parents were not going to let me go see this movie, so the minute it went to a video store that I could rent, I picked it up, and when I finally saw it, you could tell how let down I was. This is a movie that literally is promising you all the sex in the world, and it doesn't give you anything of noteworthiness to it whatsoever. So the storyline of the movie is that you have 7 years ago, a bunch of friends make a bet that they'll give the last remaining bachelor a ton of money. Now, after losing a ton of money at a Vegas casino, a character played by Jake Busey, if I remember correctly. No, this is Jerry Connell. Jerry Connell has to quickly get his friend, played by Jake Busey, married so that he can collect the prize to pay back his debt. And, of course, hilarity ensues. You have Shannon Elizabeth, who plays the love interest in this. You see Jamie Presley in there, Horatio Sands, Bernie Casey is in this as well, David Ogden Stiers. A bunch of Playboy centerfolds and sexy women, and, yeah, there is nothing there. There is nothing in this movie whatsoever. It's a movie that is literally the pure definition of a cock tease, because it teases you with the idea that you're going to see all these scantily clad women and they're going to get naked. It's going to be that type of movie that you're going to remember, like American Pie. But American Pie has a good story and good characters to it that makes you want to stick around for it. This does not. This is a bad romantic comedy disguised as a raunchy sex comedy, and not even a good raunchy sex comedy. I mean, the poster for this alone is literally a woman with a diamond ring in her belly button, wearing these boxers, looking like she's about to take them off, because that's the only way you're going to sell this movie to people, is if you promise TNA, and it just doesn't work. It does not work whatsoever. It's a really bad movie. It's not funny. It's boring. It's not enjoyable. It runs way too long. It falls into lazy romantic comedy cliches that you've seen done over and over again. Like, the moment you see what the big third act surprise is going to be, it's just like, really, we're doing this again? I hated this movie. I hated this movie when I saw it as a teen. Even when I went back to it, I hated it then. It just sucks. It's a horrible, horrible movie that missells you on everything. It's a friggin' mess, man. It's a friggin' mess. So, let's see if we can mend the tides a little bit here. Let's see if we can end this on a positive note with our last film, and that is The Tailor of Panama. So this is a John Borman-directed spy thriller with Jeffrey Rush playing the title character, who's a former convict turned tailor who is strong-armed by a more MI6 agent, played by Pierce Brosnan, into spying on the Panamanian government. You also have Jamie Lee Curtis, Brendan Gleeson, Catherine McCormick, you see Dylan Baker in there, Lenore Varela from the Mummy movies, and most notably, a young Daniel Radcliffe before he eventually went on to superstar later on in the year with Harry Potter. And this is not a bad movie. This is actually a pretty interesting and very well-made spy film. It's a smart, dark, satirical movie that has a lot of thrills to it. The direction is very good. This is probably the last film I think John Borman did before he eventually retired from filmmaking. I thought he passed away, but I guess not. He's still alive at 91 years old. Good on him, man. But well, then again, we'll see what happens. I may have just cursed him right there, but no, this is a really good movie. This is a very well-made film. It's very interesting to see Pierce Brosnan kind of doing James Bond, but doing James Bond in kind of a different way. It's nice to see Jeffrey Rush get a leading role in a movie like this, and Jamie Lee Curtis I thought was very good. I thought the visuals overall were top-notch. I think it is a very solid, well-made film on so many levels. And It's a very underrated movie. I definitely would say definitely check it out if you haven't seen it, because it is definitely worth the watch. Very underrated film, The Tailor of Panama. So with that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies. We'll jump into April on the next episode by taking a look at Morgan Freeman once again returning as Alex Cross in Along Came a Spider. We also have Blow with Johnny Depp and Penelope Cruz. The third and final film released by Warner Brothers in the Pokemon series, Pokemon 3 the movie, Spell of the Unknown, and also Christina Applegate and Jean Reno in the remake of the British comedy Just Visiting. So 4 films to look at next time around. We'll take a look at those on the next episode. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the plays on the next page. Check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I'm off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.